So at this step of the demonstration, we are done with building both of our sides. So this was the side I did before, this is my second side. And what we're gonna do now is take the pins out, carefully take the truss off of the side, and then stand our bridge up to do our top view, or our road bed. You'll still need the same tools that you had before, so you'll need a pencil, your X-Acto knife or stick cutter, your glue, any wood that you have left over, and hopefully you have some. If you don't have some, I normally have a scrap box. You can help yourself to the scrap box if you need to. You'll still need your cardstock as your cutting board and a wet paper towel. Okay, so if you want to watch what I'm doing down here, it's probably going to be the most helpful. So you'll want to remove all the pins. And with your cutting board, your little cardstock cutting board, it's actually easiest to use that to pry up underneath your bridge so that you aren't breaking any pieces. So we actually use it under your bridge. We use it as like a little shim, and that helps to remove it. So now we have both of our trusses. Now the next part's a little tricky. What we would need to do is, if you take a look, here's our top view. We want to actually stand these up on our top view and then pin them down. And that's a little hard to do. Sometimes you need a partner's help to do that. So what we're going to do is you actually line it up directly on top of your drawing. You take the pins, and just like we did before, it's kind of like that little teepee where it's clamping it down. You're going to clamp down on either side to hold it in place. And if you have trouble with this, you can bring it to me or your teacher, or have a friend kind of help you that you know that's gotten it. The key is that this is standing up vertical, so we can see it in line. You don't want it to be slanted to one side or the other. It should be standing straight up. You're gonna do this on both sides. So we're actually building your bridge upright at this point. And when you're doing this, when you're looking at your road bed, if you have pieces that are going across vertically or horizontally, make sure where you put the pins, you don't put the pins where a piece of wood is supposed to be, or when you go to put the wood on, it's not gonna stick. Now to keep the bridge upright while we're building, the very first piece we're gonna put on, so both my pieces are on there now. You can see that from all sides. The first piece of wood we're actually gonna put on is gonna be at the ends. So we're gonna put a piece here and a piece here. And the reason why we're gonna do that is to help hold our bridge upright, but we're not gonna use regular glue for this. You'll find one location in the classroom I normally have set up a hot glue gun. And we're just gonna tack, this is the only place you're allowed to use hot glue. Do not use hot glue anywhere else. We're gonna tack two pieces on the end, that way it stays upright. So remember, the dimensions of our bridge were 8 inches long, 2 inches tall, and 2.5 inches wide. So if most of your pieces at this point are gonna be 2.5 inches, you just have to measure to 2.5, and you can cut all of the pieces to that width if you want. So I'm gonna cut 2 here. To cut them with my X-Acto knife. Same process as before, like you're using it as a wedge, so come down nice and even between the two pieces where you're cutting and rock back and forth. Now for this step, let me move this over, hopefully you can see this okay on the camera. You don't need a lot of glue, you're just gonna put a tiny dot on the end of one side and a tiny dot on the end of the other. And safety-wise, it is called hot glue because it's hot, so don't put your fingers in the hot glue. So we have 2 tiny little dots on there, and all you're gonna do is just place that right at the end of the wood to hold it in place. And again, that'll dry really quick, and the good news about that with it drying really quick is that now your bridge will stay perfectly upright and it'll be held in place while you're putting the rest of the pieces on. So again, same thing on the other side, a tiny dot on one end, a tiny dot on the other end, and then we tack it in place. You really don't want hot glue everywhere, so try not to put too much on. I've seen people put too much hot glue on. And that's it with the hot glue. So I'll take a pause here, and then I'll have you guys watch me do the rest. All right, so we're ready to start applying our pieces. I am going to, if you take a look at my design, I have 2 long pieces that are going across, and then I have a bunch of horizontal pieces, but I have a feeling I might run out of wood. So if you find that might be the case with your design also, the first pieces you might want to get rid of are any long ones. It's more important that we have pieces going across horizontally or vertically, depending on how you're looking at it, on our road bed, so spanning it from the width, going across like this. One of the biggest mistakes my students make is when they put their pieces on, they don't put their pieces on top of the truss, they actually put them on the inside. We are laminating, which means we're actually going to put these pieces on top of the sides of our truss, and what happens when we do that is when we're testing it, the actual force from the tester will push down on the truss, and that's what we're testing in the design of our trusses. If you just put the pieces on the inside of our bridge, you're not actually testing the strength of your truss, you're testing how strong is this tiny little piece of wood. It's not very strong. So it's important that we do this part correctly. If you have any bass wood left over, I highly recommend you use it because again, it's a denser wood and it's a little bit thicker. So if you have some left over, the first place you're going to want to use it is as close to the center as possible. Now, don't forget you were supposed to leave a 1/2 inch space right in the center for our tester to come through. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut and see how many pieces I have left over. So this is a 2.5 inch piece, and this is a 2.5 inch piece, and this is a 2.5 inch piece. So I'm going to put an X because that's going to be scrap. So I got 3 right there, and according to my drawing, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 3. So I'm going to see if I can get 5 more and see how much I have left over. So I could put that piece in there, but I won't have a piece that's long enough that way. I might be able to fudge it a little bit if I do it like that. So you know what I actually am? I'm going to put my long pieces in. I'm going to try to make it work. We'll see. See what happens. So I'm going to cut those 2 first. So I'm not going to glue anything in yet. I'm actually going to just cut and make sure I have enough pieces first. That's pretty important. So those 2 would go in there. I already started marking off these. And again, these are actually going to go on top of the truss, so I'm going to put them in there pretending like that's actually where it's going to go. And hopefully if you cut this all right, it fits. If you don't cut it the right size, it won't fit. And I think I don't even have enough, like just enough, which is kind of crazy. Somehow I actually measured right today. It doesn't always happen. All right, so I'm gonna go cut my basswood with the back saw at our tiny little vise, and then I'll be right back to glue it all together. Okay, so what you missed was me cutting these bass pieces down. I already put 2 of them inside. Now, if I have a piece that's thicker, so this is a 1/4 inch thick, and I still have these 2 left over, to try to make, remember, our bridge we want our bridge to be symmetrical, so it's same all over. What you can do if you have a lot of pieces left over, you can actually make the bottom of your bridge stronger by laminating and putting 2 of these together, gluing them together, before you put them in on your road bed so that they're the same thickness as your other piece of bass. So to do that, it's really simple. You just add glue in between and laminate 2 of the smaller ones together. This is a trick. Normally people whose bridges hold the most weight, they do this. So if you got the extra wood, use it. If you end up having extra wood at the end of all this, what you do is you just put it in the scrap bin and it kind of becomes a donation for everybody else. So at this point, I'm ready to start putting my pieces in. You do this the same way you built your bridge everywhere else, except for you have to very carefully slide the pieces in and then set them on top of the sides of your bridge. Now I'm going to take the rest of these out, and in the video I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this. So for the next couple minutes, I'm just going to be gluing away, and you'll be watching me do this a little bit at a faster pace. fast forwarding is hopefully done now. I was having a nice conversation with my videographers and assistants today. My bridge is done, which is really cool. I'm gonna spin it and hopefully my videographer can zoom in here. When you're done, you'll actually see right here the sides of the wood, and they're sitting on top of our truss, and that's really important. We wanna let this dry for 24 hours. So tomorrow's class, if it's on a Friday and Monday's class, is when we'll be ready to test. And we're gonna test for the efficiency of the bridge, we're gonna weigh the bridge, and we'll be testing it up. Now, same thing we did with the truss. If you're looking at the bottom of your bridge and you're like, oh shoot, like I got a gap here, I obviously cut this piece a little crooked, you can put a gusset there to make it stronger. So make sure you go back through, and anywhere you have a joint that you would make stronger, or if you have extra wood, if you want to put some pieces of wood on the top of your bridge, you can do that also. Just remember, nothing right in the center, because that's where our tester goes down. So we are officially done building at this point, and then we're ready for testing.